Welcome to the world of biology. Today, let me introduce the chapter Human Health and Disease of Class 12 Biology. The chapter content includes various definitions of health, different types of infectious diseases, preventive measures, immunity, vaccination, allergy, autoimmune disorders, the immune system, AIDS, cancer, drugs and alcohol abuse. Now, we shall begin this session with various definitions of health. The term health is very much familiar to you, and all of us are having a very good concept about health. But here we have to learn the health definitions put forward by various scientists and thinkers. First of all, we shall learn the health definition given by the early Greek philosophers. According to the early Greek philosophers such as Hippocrates and the Ayurveda system of medicine, health was considered as a state of body and mind where there was a balance of certain body humors. Now you may wonder, what are body humors? They are nothing but the body fluids. According to the concept, there are 4 different types of body humors. The different body humors include phlegm, blood, yellow bile and black bile. And according to their concept, when there was a balanced secretion of these body humors that provided good health. Also, they believed that the balanced secretion of these body humors influenced one's personality and behavior. Now we shall discuss the relation between these body humors and the human personality. Children, you can see the different body humors on this slide. Different body humors include blood, yellow bile, black bile and phlegm. According to the Greek philosophers, the 4 types of personalities, human personalities, include sanguine personality, choleric personality, melancholic personality and the phlegmatic personality. They believed that the blood was secreted from liver and the blood was responsible for the sanguine personality. Such persons are very active. That means they are sanguine in nature. They are very enthusiastic and social. Next, about the choleric personality, which was believed to be secreted or due to the secretion of yellow bile from gallbladder. Such persons who shows choleric personality are aggressive in nature. They are goal-oriented, practical and straightforward. Next type of personalities, that is a melancholic personality, which was believed due to the secretion of black bile from spleen. Such personalities are hot-tempered personalities and they get fever more often and easily get depressed. But such personalities are loving. They are having a loving nature towards their families and friends. Then the 4th type of personality due to the secretion of phlegm from lungs. They shows phlegmatic personality. Such persons are careful, calm and they in most times avoid conflicts. Hope children you understood the 4 different types of personalities and the body humors. When there was a balanced secretion of these body humors, it provided good health. Imbalanced secretion resulted in ill health. This was the belief of the early Greek philosophers. Now we shall move on to the next concept of health according to the early biologists of 20th century. Next, about the disapproval of the health concepts by early Greek philosophers. With the discovery of blood circulation by William Harvey, this good humor hypothesis was disproved. And later on, the biologists of early 20th century gave another definition for health. According to the biologist, health was a state of mind, and the mind influenced the immune system through neural system and endocrine system, and it is the immune system that provides health. This was the concept of early biologists. Then we have to learn another definition given by WHO. According to WHO, health was a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being. Now we shall analyze what are these physical, mental and social well-beingness. You might have heard about your parents or grandparents complaining about body pain, leg pain, etc. That means they are not fit at all. Their physical health is affected. And then the mental state of a person get affected. That means we are more anxious or anxiety develops. About the social state, the surroundings, the peer groups, your family backgrounds, all this constitutes a social state. If you are having a good social state, in turn you will produce a fruitful work. That means a balanced physical, mental and social state results in good health. These are the different definitions of various thinkers about health. Now we can analyze the different effects of health. When people are healthy, they are efficient at work. Also, this will produce economic prosperity and the productivity gets increased. It will increase the lifespan of people. Also, it reduces infant and maternal mortality rate. These are the effects of good health. Now we shall have a look on the different factors that affects one's health. 3 different factors are known to affect one's health, which includes genetic disorders, infections and lifestyle. Genetic disorders are the types of diseases by which a child is born. There are different types of genetic disorders or chromosomal abnormalities. Example, Turner syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, Down syndrome and so on. About the genetic disorders you will learn in the genetics. The second type of factor that affect health are infections. Very often we all are exposed to different types of disease causing organisms and we get infected. So the infections also affect our health. Thirdly, the lifestyle. The eating and drinking patterns may affect our health. If we are eating junk foods, it will disturb our health. Later on, it can lead to obesity. All these are lifestyle diseases. So these 3 factors, genetic disorders, infections and the lifestyle diseases may affect our health. Hope children, you are following me. You have learned the health definitions, the factors that affects health and the effect of health. Now, how can we maintain a good health? What are the different things we need to maintain a good health? 3 basic things are needed. First one, a balanced diet. Then regular exercise. Thirdly, personal hygiene. These three things are very important for maintaining a good health. In addition, knowledge or awareness about different diseases, their effects, immunization and vaccination, proper disposal of waste, control of vectors, maintenance of hygienic food and water resources. All these things are necessary for maintaining a good health. About balanced diet, you have learned the definitions for balanced diet in lower classes. Do you remember? Let's recall what is the definition for balanced diet. A balanced diet is a diet that supplies all the nutrients in the right proportion. Then what are these nutrients? The nutrients include the food components such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins and water. When all these food factors are supplied in the right proportion, it can lead to good health. Secondly, about regular exercise. Doctors recommend at least 30 minutes exercise for a good health. Thirdly, personal hygiene, which is very important at the present scenario. Personal hygiene. Before eating food, you have to wash your hands. Then after using the washrooms, again you have to wash your hands. That is for destroying the germs that can enter through the alimentary canal and in turn will affect our health. So these are the factors that can maintain or provide a good health. So all of us should be very much familiar and aware about our health. Now we can move on to the next subtopic, that is disease. We can split this term, dis and ease. Dis means disturbance. Ease is a comfortable state. Something that disturbs the comfortable state is termed as disease. This is the very simple definition for disease. In depth about the definition of disease, any physical or functional change from the normal state that causes discomfort or impairs the health of a living organism can be called as disease. Changing from the normal state is known as disease. And such changes may give rise to signs and symptoms. Here in this chapter, we will learn about different types of diseases, the causal organism of the diseases, how they are transmitted, and how they affect our health. All these things we have to learn one after another. About the two types of diseases. Diseases can be broadly classified into two. One is the congenital disease and the other one acquired disease. Congenital diseases are the diseases or abnormalities that are present since birth. Some of the genetic disorders or chromosomal abnormalities, all these are congenital diseases. Acquired diseases are the diseases that are acquired or developed after birth. Acquired diseases can again be classified into two, as communicable or infectious diseases and non-communicable or non-infectious diseases. One by one, we will familiarize the communicable and non-communicable diseases. First, about communicable or infectious diseases. The diseases which are caused by pathogens or disease-causing organisms or some other extrinsic factors are termed as communicable or infectious diseases. Such diseases spread from one person to another. For example, common cold, which gets easily transmitted from one person to another. Secondly, about non-communicable or non-infectious diseases. Diseases which are caused both by external and internal factors are termed as non-communicable diseases. They remain confined to the affected person. Example, heart diseases. They are non-communicable diseases. Hope children you understood the difference between communicable as well as non-communicable diseases. Now about the next subtopic, pathogens. Pathogens are disease-causing organisms which can cause different types of diseases. The pathogens are broadly classified into 5. First one, virus, bacteria, protozoans, helminths and fungi. There are 5 different categories of pathogens. The pathogen virus or the disease-causing organism virus can cause several viral diseases. Some examples for the viral diseases: common cold, chikungunya, dengue fever, all these are viral diseases. The bacterial diseases include typhoid, pneumonia, dysentery, plague and diphtheria. Thirdly, about the protozoan diseases that include malaria, amoebiasis. Then about helminths or the worms that can infect one's body. The helminth disease include Ascariasis and Elephantiasis. Finally, the fungal diseases or the diseases caused by fungi, the ringworms or ringworm infections. These are some of the diseases which we are going to discuss in detail in this chapter. Hope students, you understood various definitions of health, factors affecting health, disease and the causal organism. We shall learn one by one about the different types of diseases. Firstly, we shall try to learn about the bacterial disease typhoid. The causal organism of typhoid is a bacterium known as Salmonella typhi. When this bacteria enter the human body, they initially affects the small intestine. Later on, they pierce the intestinal wall and migrate to other organs. This may result in bleeding, internal bleeding. You can have a look on the bacterium Salmonella typhi. Now about the symptoms of the disease. Such persons, a typhoid patient, will be having sustained high fever. That is one of the primary symptoms. Also, various other symptoms are there: headache, weakness, stomach pain, constipation, loss of appetite, intestinal perforation. That is the bacterium. Earlier I told you the bacterium can pierce the small intestinal wall and can migrate, enter the bloodstream and migrate to other organs. In such cases, the disease becomes severe and death can occur. Several other clinical symptoms are also there. Body rashes, pink colored rashes appears on the body. Then I told you muscular pain, joint pain will be there. All these are the symptoms of the disease. You have to familiarize various symptoms of typhoid. Next, about the confirmatory test. How can we diagnose the disease typhoid? The confirmatory test is known as Widal test. The principle of this test is the agglutination reaction between antigen and antibody. Are you familiar with these two terms, antigen and antibody? Antigens are any proteins released by the disease-causing organism. Antibodies are protein molecules produced in response to the antigen. That is, one's immune system produces antibody against the foreign particle. So an agglutination reaction between antigen and antibody can confirm the disease. More about this Widal test. It was named after its inventor, George Fernand Widal, who was a French physician. About the test, it is a serological test to diagnose enteric or typhoid fever. And the steps include specific antibodies in the blood serum of infected individual is mixed with antigen suspensions containing killed bacteria that causes typhoid fever. Antigen suspensions are present within the Widal test kit, and the antibodies of the infected person are isolated from the blood serum and they are mixed. This is about the test, Widal test. Next, about modes of transmission, the different ways by which the pathogen get transmitted. First, through contaminated food and water. Also, house flies act as mechanical carriers which carry the pathogens from the feces to the food, milk and water. The primary sources are urinary waste and then fecal matter. So from the infected person's fecal matter, house flies can transmit the disease causing pathogen to food and water. Thus the food and water gets contaminated. This is the mode of transmission of the disease. About the preventive measures, how can we prevent the transmission? This is an infectious disease, right? So we have to prevent the transmission. How? First one, proper sanitation. Secondly, personal hygiene. Before eating, wash the hands. After using the washroom, you have to wash your hands properly. Then after visiting a person also, if you are giving a handshake, you have again, in such cases, you have to wash your hands properly because all these can transmit the disease, causing pathogen. Then avoid contamination of food and water by house flies. Currently, typhoid vaccines are also available that can provide immunity. And the treatment for the disease includes antibiotics. These are the preventive measures. Hope children, you understood about the different causal organism, modes of transmission, various symptoms, the confirmatory test of typhoid. Another interesting fact of typhoid is about Typhoid Mary. Mary Mallon, nicknamed as Typhoid Mary, was an Irish-born cook by profession. Through the food she prepared, she continued spreading the disease to a large number of people. She was an asymptomatic carrier. That means she never produced the disease. She was only a healthy carrier of the disease. Through the food she prepared, she transmitted the disease. It was believed that she infected 51 people, 3 of whom died with typhoid fever. And she was the first person in the United States identified as an asymptomatic carrier of the disease. Since she was a born cook, she exposed others to the disease. So she was twice forcibly quarantined by the authorities and died after a total of nearly 3 decades in isolation. Now we shall learn another bacterial disease, pneumonia. The disease pneumonia is an inflammatory condition of lungs. Either one lungs or both gets affected. The causal organisms include 2 different types of bacteria, Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenzae. These bacteria are the pathogens of pneumonia. In such a case, or in the case of pneumonia, the parts affected include alveolar sacs of lungs. What are alveolar sacs? They are the functional units of lungs. They get affected. Within the alveoli, the gaseous exchange occurs. Then the bronchial regions also get affected. About the symptoms of pneumonia, there will be high fever, chills, cough, headache, and in severe cases, the lips and fingertips turn grey to bluish in color. When you visit doctors, they may pinch the fingertip. Why? That is to check the presence of oxygen. If the fingertip turns grey or blue in color, there will be shortage of oxygen, insufficient oxygen supply. Do you know why? Because in the case of pneumonia, the alveolar sacs gets filled with a protein-rich fluid so that enough oxygen will not reach the alveoli. That may in turn results in respiratory problems such as breathing difficulty. You can have a look on the pneumonia patient. Here there is a slide showing the pneumonia symptoms. There will be high fever, chills, then lungs, cough with sputum or phlegm, shortness of breath, muscular pain. There will be low blood pressure but high heart rate. All these are some of the symptoms of the pneumonia. Next, about the mode of transmission of the disease. Two different ways are there for transmitting the bacteria. One is by the direct inhalation of the droplets or aerosols released by an infected person. Direct inhalation. Secondly, indirectly by sharing utensils and glasses with an infected person. Better not to visit a pneumonia patient or never visit hospitals. In such cases, you may share the utensils, the bed or other belongings of the patient and the disease can easily transmitted. Treatment methods include drugs such as antibiotics. And in most cases, though it is not mentioned in an NCERT textbook, the diagnostic methods include physical examination. I told you earlier, the doctors use the sphygmomanometer or the stethoscope for confirming the presence of the disease-causing organism, whether you are having a high fever. Then chest X-ray, blood and sputum culture. All these are different diagnostic methods by which the pathogen can be identified. So we have learned two different bacterial diseases, typhoid and pneumonia. Now we can move on to another disease, common cold, which is a viral disease. Common cold is a viral infection usually affecting the upper respiratory tract. And the causal organism is a group of viruses known as rhinoviruses. The common cold usually lasts for 3 to 7 days. The different regions which are affected due to rhinoviruses include the nose and respiratory passage. Do you remember the different ways or different parts of the respiratory system? Nose, that is the external opening nostril, leads to the nasal chamber, that again leads to the rest part, that is the nasopharyngeal region is there, then the trachea and the primary bronchi, bronchioles, etc. The lungs will not be affected, but the other parts, upper respiratory tract and the nasal cavity gets affected due to rhinoviruses. About the symptoms, I know all of you have once affected with this common cold. Different symptoms: nasal congestion and discharge, sore throat, hoarseness, cough, headache, tiredness. These are some of the common symptoms of common cold. And it may persist for 5 to 7 days. After that, you may get relief from the disease. And the modes of transmission, again, direct inhalation of the droplets of cough or sneezes of an infected person, indirectly through contaminated objects such as book, pen, doorknob, etc. Since the pathogen can be easily transmitted, the disease is termed as common cold. Wherever you go, you spread the rhinoviruses. Wherever you touch, you contaminate that particular subject or particular object. Till now we have learned 3 different types of diseases. Next, about another disease, that is malaria, which is caused by a protozoan known as Plasmodium. About malaria, it's a mosquito-borne febrile disease caused by the malarial parasite Plasmodium. There are different species of Plasmodium, that includes Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae, Plasmodium falciparum, and Plasmodium ovale. Among this, the most serious and malignant malaria is caused by Plasmodium falciparum. The term malaria is an Italian word. We can split the term mala and aria. Mala means bad, aria means air. So, bad air. It was believed that due to bad air, the disease occurs. Then there are different organs affected due to the malarial parasite. When the malarial parasite enters the human body, initially liver cells get affected, later on RBC. Liver cells and RBC are affected due to the malarial parasite. You can have a look on the slide here. When the female Anopheles mosquito, which is considered as the vector of this malarial parasite. Vector means the carrier. Female Anopheles mosquito transmit the parasite into the human body when they suck blood. Initially, liver cells get attacked. Later on, from the liver cells, the parasite enter RBC. Within the RBC, again, multiplication occurs. We will learn this in detail in the life cycle of the parasite. When the female Anopheles mosquito takes blood as their meal, again, the parasite reaches the body of Anopheles mosquito, and the cycle continues. Now about some of the symptoms of malaria, which include fever and chills, acute headache, weakness, and anemia. In addition, the person will be having body pain, back pain will be there, then nausea and vomiting will be there, spleen enlargement will be there, profuse sweating will be there. All these are some other associated symptoms of the disease. Now about the mode of transmission of the malarial parasite. The malarial parasite needs a vector. The vector is the female Anopheles mosquito. So it can be termed as a vector-borne disease. And about the mosquitoes, usually the mosquitoes spread various disease-causing organisms. Among this, the female mosquitoes are usually transmitting the disease. Why the male mosquitoes are not transmitting the disease? Have you ever thought about this? The female Anopheles mosquito need the blood to prepare their outer covering of the egg. They need protein from the blood meal, and the iron also they need for making the egg. The male mosquitoes usually feeds on nectar. They do not need blood. So the female Anopheles mosquito is the vector of malaria. About the treatment of malaria, the malarial drugs, anti-malarial drugs such as quinine and chloroquine can be prescribed for malarial treatment. Here, what we have to learn in detail is the life cycle of the parasite. So very important for the exam, for the board exam. About the parasite, Plasmodium. The Plasmodium requires 2 different hosts So it is known as a digenetic parasite. Two different hosts are required to complete its life cycle. The primary hosts are female Anopheles mosquito and the secondary hosts are human beings. In human beings and in female Anopheles mosquito, the parasite completes its life cycle. And different parasitic forms are formed or produced during the infection period. And the most infectious forms are sporozoid stage of the malarial parasite. Sporozoids are spindle-shaped and uninucleated parasitic forms. Now we have to go through the flow chart of the malarial parasite life cycle. Here is the flow chart showing the life cycle of the malarial parasite. Look here how the life cycle begins. When female Anopheles mosquito bites a healthy man, sporozoids are injected with the bite. These sporozoids are stored within their salivary glands. They are injected along with the bite. These sporozoids enter. Initially, they attack the liver cells. Within the liver cells, they undergo asexual reproduction. Numerous parasitic forms are formed inside the liver cells. Then they burst the liver cells and get released into the blood. Again, they enter RBC. Within the RBC, the parasite undergoes asexual multiplication. Burst RBC along with the release of a hemozoin or along with the release of a toxin known as hemozoin, which is responsible for malarial chills and fever. The hemozoin is a toxin that causes malarial chills and fever. Later on, the parasite enters new RBC and develops the gametocytes. These gametocytes are present within the RBC. By this time, if a mosquito sucks blood from this infected person, the gametocytes enter the gut of the mosquito. Within the gut, these gametocytes becomes gametes, fusion occurs, and the fertilized form or the zygote is formed within the gut. The zygote transforms into a worm-like form known as ookinet, which gets encysted within the stomach wall. Later on, these ookinet stage becomes sporozoids and migrate to the salivary glands of the mosquito, and they are stored there. When this infected mosquito, female Anopheles mosquito, sucks blood or bites a healthy individual, it is released into the bloodstream. Sporozoids are released into the bloodstream of the healthy man. Likewise, the life cycle continues. So, two different hosts, human host and the mosquito host. Within the human host, they complete the asexual phase of their life, and within mosquito, they complete the sexual phase. We can have a quick recap what we have learned today. We have learned various definitions of health, then the factors maintaining health, the different factors that affect health, effect of a good health, diseases, infectious diseases such as typhoid, pneumonia, common cold and malaria, the mode of transmission, their symptoms, the diagnostic methods, all these we have familiarized. Thank you.